The great hall of the Galactic Dragon Court was silent, heavy, and tense. Tall crystal pillars rose toward the ceiling like frozen fire, glowing with red and gold. Dragon nobles stood in rows, their wings tucked and their eyes sharp. They had gathered for one purpose: to find a new royal advisor. It was the highest honor in their empire, and only the strongest minds and bravest hearts dared to compete. But now fear had replaced excitement. In the center of the hall stood the ancient chamber, the trial of Ancaris. It looked alive with scales that shifted like slow waves. Inside it, one final test waited, a test no one had passed for hundreds of years. A heavy thud echoed as another defeated candidate was thrown from the chamber. His armor smoked, his pride broken, and his voice shook as he whispered, "It showed me everything wrong inside me. I could not face it." The dragons murmured in frustration. Dozens had tried already. Elite warriors, wise scholars, brave princes. Every one of them had failed. High Lady Aerolith watched from her throne-like seat, her tall frame cold and elegant. Her scales were silver-white, sharp like blades, and her eyes burned with fierce disappointment. She had expected at least one candidate to succeed. Instead, the chamber rejected all of them without mercy. "This is useless," she said, her voice cutting like ice. "Not one of them is worthy. Not one of them understands the heart of a dragon." Some dragons nodded. Others looked away in shame. At the far end of the hall, behind a group of scholars and attendants, a human teenager stood quietly. His name was Milo Darwin. He was skinny, wore thick glasses, and carried a datapad full of notes. He was not part of the trials. He was only there as an observer for a school research project. He had kept to himself all morning, taking small steps and watching carefully, trying not to disturb anyone. Most dragons did not even notice him. The ones who did only saw a harmless human student who did not belong in a hall of warriors and rulers. Milo knew that too. He had no special abilities, no power, no magic. He had been allowed to watch only because humans were new allies, and the court wanted to appear welcoming. But he watched everything very closely. Every failure. Every fear. Every whisper. Milo had always been good at seeing things others missed. Now the next candidate entered the chamber. A bold, red-scaled warrior who had trained for this moment his entire life. His tail flicked with confidence, and he glared at the chamber as if daring it to challenge him. The doors closed. For a moment, the chamber glowed bright red. Then a scream tore through the hall, and the warrior was thrown out, sliding across the floor until he hit a pillar and collapsed. Aerolith stood up in anger. Another failure. Another waste of time. The hall fell deeper into silence. The chamber's scales dimmed. It seemed tired, or disappointed. Aerolith turned toward the crowd, her voice rising. "Is there no one with a worthy heart? No one who can look inside themselves without fear?" No one answered. She scanned the rows of failed candidates, shaking her head with disgust. Then her eyes moved to the back of the hall and stopped. There stood Milo holding his datapad, looking small and out of place. Aerolith's lips curled into a sharp, mocking smile. "Fine," she said loudly. "If the mighty cannot do it, perhaps the universe wants a joke instead." She raised her claw and pointed straight at Milo. "You, human boy, step forward." Milo froze. His heart jumped into his throat. "And me?" The dragons around him turned to look, some shocked, some amused. A ripple of surprised laughter moved through the crowd. "He is just a student," someone whispered. "A fragile human," another said. "He will collapse in seconds. He does not even have scales." Milo swallowed hard. He felt his palms tremble. He had not spoken a single word all morning, and now every eye was on him. Aerolith's expression stayed sharp. "You wanted to observe? Very well. Observe from inside the test." Milo could have said no. He could have run. He could have asked them to choose someone else. But he saw the chamber. He saw how its scales dimmed like a lonely creature waiting for someone to understand it. And for some reason he could not explain, he stepped forward. Milo walked slowly toward the platform. The dragons parted around him, surprised and confused. His heart pounded so loudly he almost could not hear anything else. His legs felt weak, but he kept moving. When he reached the chamber, the doors slid open like a mouth waiting to swallow him. Aerolith spoke again. "Enter, human. Show us if your heart has anything worth seeing." Milo looked up at her. She expected him to cry or beg. But he simply nodded. He stepped inside. The doors closed behind him with a deep, echoing thud. The hall fell silent. Inside the chamber, darkness surrounded Milo. The air felt heavy, warm, and alive. The walls glowed faintly, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Milo felt his fear rising, but he also felt something else, something sad and ancient. He whispered softly, "It's okay. I'm not here to fight you." The chamber glowed brighter, as if listening. Outside, dragons waited for screams. Seconds passed. Then more seconds. Nothing. Aerolith leaned forward, confused. The chamber glowed again, this time a soft, warm gold. The scales shifted gently instead of violently. A quiet hum filled the hall. Then the doors opened. Milo stepped out unharmed. He looked confused, but calm. The chamber behind him shone brighter than it ever had for any candidate. The entire hall gasped. Aerolith stood slowly, her eyes wide with shock. For the first time in hundreds of years, someone had passed the impossible test. And that someone was a human school nerd who never meant to be part of any of this. The hall remained frozen in disbelief as Milo stood on the platform, unsure of what he had just done, but knowing everything in the galaxy had changed. The chamber door closed behind Varen with a heavy sound that echoed like a warning. Everyone outside thought he would fail. Even he was not sure if he could pass. But he took a slow breath and stepped forward. The air inside was warm, almost alive, like something ancient was watching him. The chamber was round, with walls made of smooth stone, and tiny points of blue light floated like stars in the darkness. It felt peaceful but also dangerous. He walked deeper. His steps sounded loud in the silence. He expected traps or puzzles like the stories always talked about, but nothing happened. Instead, the lights on the walls began to move. They drifted like fireflies, circling him, forming lines and shapes. Varen felt a soft pull, like the air itself wanted him to follow the patterns. He reached out to touch one of the lights. It grew brighter and rushed into his palm. It did not burn. Instead, it felt warm like a small heartbeat. Suddenly, the ground under him glowed with bright rings. A deep hum filled the chamber, and images appeared in the air. They looked like memories, but they were not his. He saw dragons flying through a sky full of stars, fighting giant metal ships. He saw humans standing beside them, holding strange devices and glowing tools. He saw alliances, wars, victories, and broken worlds. The chamber was not a test of strength or speed. It was a test of understanding. He watched one image longer than the others. It showed a dragon girl standing beside a human child. They were in front of a machine shaped like a circle. The circle was almost the same as the one under Varen's feet. The dragon girl in the vision said something, but her voice was soft, hard to hear. Varen leaned in. Her whisper echoed again and again in the room. Only a calm mind can open the heart of the chamber. Varen swallowed. Everyone outside tried to force the chamber open. They tried power, magic, strength, and fire. But no one tried calm. Maybe that was why they all failed. He closed his eyes and stopped trying to understand everything at once. He let the lights move freely. He listened to the soft hum, to the breathing of the room. And then something changed. The blue lights gathered above him and dropped down in a slow spiral. They touched his shoulders, his head, and his chest. A soft wind passed through the stone walls even though there were no doors open. The rings under him began to move like turning gears, and a core of light rose from the floor. It looked like a crystal, glowing from the inside. It floated in front of him, waiting. He reached for it, but before his fingers touched the crystal, the lights in the chamber dimmed. A presence filled the space, strong, ancient, and calm. Varen felt like he was standing before something far older than the dragons themselves. A voice spoke, not with sound but inside his thoughts. You have entered with humility, not pride. With curiosity, not fear. With patience, not force. This is the heart of the chamber. It chooses who can hold its light. Varen froze. He had heard stories about the heart but thought they were myths. Dragons believed it held old wisdom. Humans believed it held old power. But standing here he felt it was something different. Something more alive. The crystal floated closer and the voice continued. Every royal pretender wanted power. They wanted the chamber to prove they were strong. But strength is not the purpose of this place. The chamber remembers the old bond between dragons and humans. It waits for someone who will protect that bond. Varen felt his throat tighten. Why me? He whispered. The voice warmed, gentle like a smile. Because you seek no glory. You seek no throne. You simply want to understand. And understanding is what this galaxy needs. A soft crackling sound came from the crystal. It split into two glowing shards. They hovered near his hands. Without thinking, Varen lifted his palms, and the shards settled in them. They melted into light and sank into his skin. His hands glowed briefly, then faded. The chamber lights brightened again, now warm instead of cold. The floating lights moved in wide waves like they were celebrating. The hum softened and the room felt bigger, lighter. When Varen opened his eyes fully, he noticed something new. The walls were no longer blank stone. They showed lines, paths, and symbols. They looked like maps. Not of one world but of many. He saw patterns that connected places he never heard of. He saw marks that looked like warnings and others that looked like invitations. The chamber was not just a test. It was a guide. He stepped closer to one glowing path. It led to a symbol shaped like a dragon wing and a human hand linked together. As he stared at it, another whisper reached him. Your journey starts here. But you will not walk alone. The floor lights faded again and the rings stopped spinning. The doors behind him unlocked with a soft click. Outside he knew the world was waiting. The dragon lady, the students, the royal pretenders, everyone who mocked him, they would all be shocked. But that did not matter. Varen felt something new inside him. Something steady. Something bright. He turned toward the door, ready to face whatever waited. The chamber dimmed behind him, but one small blue light lingered, following him like a tiny star. And for the first time, Varen felt like he belonged to something greater than himself. Something ancient. Something hopeful. He stepped out, carrying the heart of the chamber within him. The moment Varen stepped out of the chamber, the hall erupted in murmurs. Dragons leaned forward on their claws, eyes wide, wings slightly flared. The chamber had never accepted anyone like this before, and the sight of a human leaving it unharmed was almost too much to comprehend. High Lady Aerolith, standing tall on her elevated platform, narrowed her silver eyes. Her wings twitched with irritation. That cannot be, she said sharply, her voice slicing through the whispers. A human, a mere human, has passed the trial? Her clawed hand pointed at Varen. Step forward, boy. If this is some trick, I will see through it. Varen swallowed, his heart hammering. He was only a student, a quiet observer, and now all eyes were on him. He nodded once and moved forward, keeping his head low but his steps steady. The hall fell silent, the tension thick enough to choke. Aerolith's gaze followed him like a blade. She was not known for patience or kindness. Her dragons had been trained for centuries, and she herself had never failed a challenge. Yet here she stood, confused and vexed by a human who dared survive the impossible. You think passing the chamber makes you ready? She asked. Her voice echoed through the hall, strong and commanding. Strength alone does not impress me, boy. Courage is not measured by fear avoided. You will face my challenges, and only then will I see if you are worthy. Varen nodded. I understand, he said softly. I will try my best. The first challenge began immediately. Aerolith snapped her claws, and the floor shifted beneath Varen's feet. A platform lifted into the air, tilting and swaying as if testing his balance. A massive dragon stood at the far end, scales glinting with red firelight, eyes burning with suspicion. Its tail lashed, wings flaring as it tested him with intimidation. Most candidates would have drawn a weapon or tried to fight the dragon. Varen, however, stopped and breathed deeply. He remembered the chamber's lesson. Calm and understanding mattered more than force. He spoke quietly to the dragon, not in words it could understand, but in tone and rhythm, matching his movements with the dragon's breathing. Slowly the dragon's eyes softened. Its tail lowered. Its wings relaxed. It was not tamed, but it was no longer a threat. Aerolith raised an eyebrow. She had not expected patience or empathy. She had expected struggle, confrontation, or failure. Yet here was a human doing what no royal pretender could, understanding the creature. The second challenge arrived moments later. A puzzle appeared in the air, glowing with lines and shapes. It was an ancient dragon riddle, one unsolved for centuries. Generals and scholars had tried and failed countless times. Most would panic under the pressure. Varen stepped closer, analyzing the shapes with careful eyes. He noticed a pattern in the stars within the puzzle. Slowly, deliberately, he traced the lines, aligning them with logic rather than brute force. The puzzle shifted, clicked, and finally completed itself. A small glow of approval spread across the chamber. Aerolith hissed, her wings flaring slightly. Impossible. A human solved what the greatest dragons could not. She masked the hint of surprise behind a sharp, mocking smile. You have luck, nothing more. Let us see if your courage is real. The final challenge was the hardest. Varen was brought to a simulation of battle. Holographic enemies surrounded him, dragons, warriors, machines, all designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Every royal pretender had failed here before. They tried to strike, to dominate, to force a way through. Varen, however, remembered the calm that the chamber had taught him. He did not attack. He did not run. Instead, he looked for weaknesses in the scenario that could be solved without violence. He moved carefully, diverting attacks, guiding allies to safety, and choosing mercy over destruction when enemies faltered. By the end, the simulation faded, showing victory not through killing or dominance, but through wisdom, patience, and understanding. Aerolith watched every moment. Her sharp eyes narrowed in disbelief. She had tested the strongest, the smartest, the bravest, and they had all failed. Yet here was a human doing what she had never expected. Her pride and doubt clashed in her chest. She masked it with mockery, but inside, her thoughts were shifting. "You survive," she said finally, her voice low but sharp. "But do not think this makes you my equal. Strength and understanding are different. You may have passed my tests, human, but the galaxy will not accept weakness in a leader. Are you ready to face what comes next?" Varen met her gaze steadily. "I do not seek to replace dragons or to dominate. I only wish to learn, to understand, and to help. If that is enough, I will continue." Aerolith tilted her head. For the first time, she considered the possibility that this human had something the royal pretenders had never had: clarity of purpose, patience, and courage that did not depend on strength. The hall quieted. Other dragons watched, some in disbelief, some in awe. Varen had survived trials meant to break warriors, scholars, and princes. He had passed challenges that tested both mind and heart. And still he stood, calm, confident, and unafraid of what had once terrified all others. Aerolith stepped down from her platform and moved closer, claws clicking against the polished floor. "Human," she said softly, almost thoughtfully, "you may have survived my challenges. You have patience, understanding, and courage that no royal pretender has shown in centuries. But do not think this grants you respect easily. The galaxy is cruel, and wisdom alone does not protect you." Varen nodded. "I know. I am ready to face whatever comes next." For the first time, Aerolith's expression softened. It was a small, almost invisible change, but it was there. The mocking tone in her voice had faded slightly. She realized that the real challenge had never been physical. It had been understanding. Seeing the world clearly and choosing the right actions without fear or pride. The other dragons whispered among themselves. This human, small and unassuming, had changed something they had thought unchangeable. He had passed tests that had defeated the strongest in the Empire. And though Aerolith still stood as a proud dragon lady, she had begun to see the truth. Humans, even quiet ones, had potential that dragons often underestimated. Varen left the trial platform with steady steps, the chamber behind him still glowing faintly. The hall seemed different now, as if the air itself had shifted. The dragons had expected strength and dominance, but instead they had witnessed patience, clarity, and courage. And it had changed their perception forever. Aerolith watched him go. For the first time she felt both irritation and admiration. This human had survived the impossible, and though she would not admit it openly, she knew the galaxy would never be the same again. The celebrations after Varen's success did not last long. While the dragons and nobles whispered in awe about the human who had passed the impossible trials, shadows stirred beyond the court. Far from the crystal halls and glowing chambers, a secret faction had awakened. They called themselves the Ashbound Wing, and their name brought fear even to the oldest dragon elders. They believed dragons should rule the galaxy through fear, domination, and strict hierarchy. Mercy, wisdom, or collaboration was weakness to them. In a hidden asteroid base, hundreds of cloaked figures moved silently, preparing strange machines and weapons that pulsed with dark energy. Their leader, a massive dragon with black scales and red eyes named Kerth, stepped forward. His voice was cold and harsh. "Varen Darvin," Kerth said, "a human has dared to pass the ancient trials. A human who will weaken our order. He must be stopped. The court will fall if the dragons listen to him. The galaxy cannot afford his influence." His followers nodded, their claws tapping against metal surfaces. They had waited centuries for a moment like this, to strike against those who questioned their brutal rule. Kerth spread his wings and the machines hummed with energy. "We move tonight. The court is unprepared and the boy is defenseless. Bring him to us or destroy him." Back at the dragon court, Varen was unaware of the threat growing in the shadows. He walked through the corridors with Aerolith, the silver dragon lady, who had grown less mocking and more curious about him. "You are brave," she said softly, her tail flicking against the floor. "Not in the way warriors think of bravery, but in the way you face uncertainty. Few would have survived the chamber, and fewer still would have endured my challenges." Varen shrugged. "I only did what felt right. I did not fight. I did not try to impress. I only listened." Aerolith studied him carefully. Listening is stronger than many dragons know. It is rare to see a creature like you who does not seek power for its own sake. But bravery alone will not protect you. There are those who will not see reason. At that very moment the ashbound wing struck. Their ships, dark and jagged, appeared in the sky above the court, blocking the twin sons of Dravaris. Their engines roared like storms. Alarms echoed through the hall as dragons and humans alike rushed to defensive positions. Aerolitha's eyes widened. "Kerth," she hissed. "I thought he would not awaken for decades. How did they find us so quickly?" Varen looked up at the sky, his calmness holding firm even as explosions rocked the outer gates. "They came for me," he said quietly. "But we are not helpless. We only need to think clearly." The ashbound wing unleashed their first wave, holographic soldiers and energy beasts, attacking with precision. Many dragons responded with fire and claws, but the attackers moved faster than expected. Chaos threatened to overwhelm the court. Aerolith fought fiercely, her wings slicing through the air, her claws catching enemies mid-flight. Yet even she began to realize the ashbound wings machines were more advanced than any force she had ever faced. Their attack was strategic, relentless, and merciless. Varen took a deep breath. He closed his eyes and remembered the chamber's lessons. Patience, understanding, empathy. The chamber had taught him to calm what was wild, to see the truth in chaos, to approach danger with clarity rather than brute force. He lifted his hands and whispered softly, "Please, listen. Stop this. See reason." The air around him shimmered. The blue light from the chamber's trials, the heart of the chamber, responded. A faint glow surrounded Varen, small at first, then growing brighter. The light swirled, forming a protective barrier around the court, deflecting the attacks without harming the ashbound wing soldiers. Kerth roared in fury. "This is impossible. The human is using the chamber's power." Aerolith stared in disbelief. "He is not fighting them, he is calming them." Varen moved slowly toward the front gate, the glow following him like living energy. He did not attack. He only spoke softly, focusing his mind. The machines of the ashbound wing began to stall, their energy pulsing unevenly. The soldiers faltered, confused, unable to continue their assault. The dragons outside the protective barrier watched in astonishment. The human, the boy they had dismissed, had tamed a power none of them had expected. His calmness, his understanding, and his clarity had activated the chamber's ancient magic. It responded to his heart, to his intentions, not to force or pride. Kerth hissed, frustration boiling in his chest. "Step aside, human. You cannot stop us." Varen remained calm. "I do not wish to stop you with violence," he said. "I only wish to protect what is right. You do not need to fight. You can leave and still survive." For a moment, Kerth hesitated. His red eyes flickered with doubt as the chamber's light washed over his soldiers. Some of them faltered, lowering weapons. The energy beasts shrank back, confused by the glow. The ancient magic of the chamber responded not to orders, not to threats, but to the honesty in Varen's heart. Seeing his forces falter, Kerth unleashed one final attack. Varen lifted his hands, focusing every thought on understanding, patience, and calm. The barrier expanded, forming a dome of shimmering light that pushed the attackers back. Ships crashed harmlessly against the shield, and the ashbound wing was forced to retreat, unable to comprehend the power that had protected the court. The hall was silent again, except for the soft hum of the protective energy fading. Dragons looked around at each other, awe and fear mixing in their eyes. Even Aerolith, who had mocked him for so long, could not hide her respect. Varen lowered his hands. The glow dimmed but remained faintly around him, a reminder of the chamber's power that he now carried within. He was not a warrior. He did not fight with claws or fire. But he had protected the court, not with force but with heart. Aerolith approached him slowly, her wings folding behind her. "You," she began, her voice low, "you have done what no dragon has done in centuries. You have faced a threat far beyond the trials, and yet you did not strike with anger or power. You used wisdom, and it worked." Varen shook his head slightly. "I only did what the chamber taught me. Strength alone cannot protect anything. Understanding, clarity, and calm, those are stronger than weapons." Aerolith looked at him for a long moment, then gave the faintest nod. Perhaps the court has underestimated humans for too long." The dragons whispered among themselves. News of the attack spread quickly, and everywhere they looked, dragons saw the truth. A small, quiet human, the one they had mocked and ignored, had changed the outcome of a battle that could have destroyed them all. Varen's calm presence, his connection to the heart of the chamber, had revealed a power no blade or fire could match. And for the first time in centuries, dragons began to question their assumptions about strength, courage, and who truly belonged in the galaxy's future. Outside, the sky cleared. The ash-bound wing retreated to the shadows, their plans foiled, at least for now. But dragons and humans alike knew this was only the beginning. The hidden threat was gone, for now, but the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, that heart, understanding, and courage could protect worlds in ways power never could. Aerolith watched Varen carefully. She had mocked him before. She had doubted him. But now she saw something undeniable. The human had passed not just the trials but the ultimate test. And that realization would change the court, and the galaxy, forever. The morning sun spilled gold across the halls of the Dragon Court, painting the crystal pillars in warm light. The air was alive with excitement and whispers. Dragons of every shape, color, and age moved through the court with renewed energy. They had seen the impossible happen. A human, small and unassuming, had passed the trials and defended the court from a hidden threat. Now the question on everyone's mind was the same. What would come next? Varen Darvin, still carrying the faint glow of the heart of the chamber, walked among the dragons. He did not wear armor. He did not carry weapons. He wore only his school clothes and a calm expression. Yet every dragon gave him space and respect, knowing he was not like any human they had ever encountered. High Lady Aerolith, silver scales glinting in the sunlight, moved beside him. Her wings folded neatly behind her, and her eyes reflected both pride and cautious optimism. "You have done what no dragon could do for centuries," she said softly. "You survived the chamber, calmed the dragons, and faced the ash-bound wing without striking a blow. You have changed everything." Varen nodded. "I only followed what the chamber taught me. Strength is not enough to protect anything. Understanding and calm can do more than fire or claws ever could." The dragons listened, and for the first time, many of them considered that perhaps their old ways of measuring power had been flawed. Pride, fire, and strength alone were not enough to guide an empire or protect worlds. Aerolith led Varen to the grand platform in the center of the court. Today was not just another trial, it was a ceremony. The royal assembly had gathered to decide how to honor the one who had survived the impossible and defended the court. For centuries, dragons had ruled with absolute authority. They had never included humans in matters of governance, and yet here was a human whose actions had shifted the balance of respect and influence. "The council has voted," Aerolith announced, her voice carrying across the crystal hall. "Varen Darvin will be recognized as the first human royal advisor of the Dragon Court. His courage, understanding, and calm have proven invaluable. From this day, humans will have a voice at the table where the fate of the galaxy is decided." Gasps and murmurs echoed through the court. Many dragons, proud and cautious by nature, were unsure what to think. Some older dragons whispered about tradition and fear, while younger dragons watched with excitement. Varen did not flinch. He only stepped forward and bowed his head respectfully. A ceremonial glow filled the room as Aerolith touched the heart of the chamber to Varen's chest. The faint blue light that had protected the court and guided him through challenges merged with his heartbeat. He could feel its warmth, its history, and its promise. "Your actions have shown all of us that a new era is possible," Aerolith continued. "An era where dragons and humans work together, not through fear but through trust, wisdom, and courage." Varen looked around at the dragons who had once doubted him. Some lowered their heads in acknowledgement. Some lifted their wings in quiet approval. Even those who had mocked him could not deny the truth. The human had done what no dragon could. The council began to speak, one by one, acknowledging the importance of collaboration between humans and dragons. The ash-bound wing was still out there, lurking in shadows, but the court was no longer afraid to face threats together. The combination of human ingenuity and dragon strength had proven effective. Outside the halls, the galaxy seemed to shift as well. Word spread quickly across planets, systems, and star clusters. Humans had a new role, not as servants or observers, but as partners in the decisions that shaped entire worlds. Dragons began to rethink their alliances, their strategies, and their expectations. The past, built on fear and rigid hierarchy, was giving way to a future filled with possibility. Aerolith turned to Varen once more. "The chamber did not choose you because you were strong or smart. It chose you because you could see the bigger picture. You reminded us that even the smallest voice can change the course of history if it speaks with courage and truth." Varen smiled softly. "I am only one human. But if my actions help dragons and humans work together, then it is enough." The dragons around him, from the smallest hatchling to the oldest elder, began to nod. They saw what he saw. The future did not belong to the strongest alone, but to those who understood, cared, and acted with purpose. The ceremony concluded with a quiet celebration. Fire danced across the walls, music hummed through the halls, and laughter echoed where there had once been only silence and tension. Varen stayed at the center, the heart of the chamber glowing faintly, a symbol of unity and hope. For the first time in centuries, dragons and humans shared a moment not of conflict, but of partnership. A new royal era had begun, not ruled by fear but guided by wisdom, courage, and the understanding that strength is most powerful when combined with empathy. As Varen looked up at Aerolith, she gave a rare, small smile. "The galaxy will remember this day," she said. "And you, human, will be a part of every change that comes next." Varen nodded, feeling a warmth he had never known. He had not sought glory. He had not sought power. But he had helped create something greater than himself. A future where dragons and humans could stand together, stronger than either alone. The light of the heart shimmered one last time that morning, spreading across the hall and into the sky above. Outside, the stars seemed brighter, the world wider, and the possibilities endless. A new royal era had begun, and this time, it would be defined not by dominance, but by courage, understanding, and the unity of two very different worlds. And at the center of it all stood Varen Darvin, a human who had changed the course of a galaxy, not through strength but through heart.